What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 50, Big 50 of the Hoop Venue podcast. My name is Tyler, and as always, I'm joined by my great friend, Sean. If you're not living under a rock, you know that we are in the midst of the NBA Finals. Game 1 of the NBA Finals was everything you could have hoped for and more. Just a classic Thunder opening where they forced 19 turnovers in the first half against a team that doesn't turn the ball over. Doing everything they do defensively, and then a classic Pacer fourth quarter comeback to steal the game in dramatic fashion. They lead for a total of 0.3 seconds over the entire game and win and steal home court advantage. So I'll just give the floor to Sean, man. What are some of your big takeaways from game 1?
I think what Indiana kind of did with J-Dub specifically. I mean, they kind of did some similar stuff with Shai in terms of like preloading and already have like that low man like show early. I think they did a really good job of limiting J-Dub's clean looks at the rim, whether it's off drives or off of playing off the catch and stuff like that. They did a really good job of forcing J-Dub to shoot some heavily contested, like shout out to Aaron Neesmith. Siakam had a couple possessions on switches. Miles Turner played a super high drop, or he had a couple shows in there as well. I think the biggest talking point that in most situations I understand why it's a talking point, but I think we don't talk about it if they don't blow the lead. And that is the whole, oh my God, Dangel's an idiot for not starting the double big, and you made an adjustment before the series even started, and blah, 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 blah. In most situations, I would actually like agree. But the one like thing that's kind of getting like completely not even over talked about, the thing that's just been being factually incorrect is that they've been so dominant with both bigs on the floor together. When it's like, I mean, okay, they've been fine, but like especially in the playoffs, they've been better when Chet's on the floor and Chet's the 5.
Yeah.
And it's not like they did this aimlessly and it was out of the blue. Like the number one example that always comes to mind when I think of like making an adjustment before the series starts is I think it's JJ talking about Stan Van Gundy before the Orlando-Boston series in 2010. And I forget what the exact adjustment was. I'm pretty sure it was also a lineup adjustment where he just made an adjustment like before this series even started against Boston, and they kind of were playing behind the 8 ball because they made the adjustment like before the series even started. This one, like, I feel like there's at least some value to it at the very least. One, they've got torched both times in the regular season, and I mean, like Hallie, if you look in the playoffs, like look in the Knicks series, Halliburton just torch drop, whether it's Cat, even Mitchell Robinson a little bit with like the pull up threes with Hallie, or Miles Turner on the pick and pop. So they torched them with that this season, the regular season, and like I said, like everybody's saying, oh, look at how good they were with the double big in the playoffs. That's just not been the case. They've been better with Chet at the 5. Not saying you don't go to it at all throughout the game. Maybe there's an argument there. Like, sure, Thomas Bryant, Obi Toppin on the floor together. Hell yeah, we'll go double big. But I do think we are over-indexing that and making it seem like that cost them the game. When, like you said, they led for 47 minutes at 57 seconds. Like, that means nothing.
I think that's a good point specifically, too, because the Thunder in Chet's 23 minutes were +4. In iHeart's 17 minutes, they were +2. And they just happened to be -7 in the other, like, 8 minutes where they didn't have a big on the court. When it was Kenrich at the 5 or J-Dub at the 5. And so, like, really, if you want to point to a lineup-specific talking point for why the Thunder threw the game, in all actuality, it would be the small ball lineup that had the worst results. And that was actually who they closed with. They closed with J-Dub at the 5. I think their closing lineup was Shai, Dort, Caruso, Wallace, J-Dub. And Indiana just got the better. I don't actually think there's a big lineup talking point. I think one game in, it's too early to draw conclusions on, like, this lineup got torched, this lineup. Indiana just, like, happened to go on a run at the right moment. And I think the talking points need to be more about what each team did strategically to gain the edge throughout the game. Like OKC, with the way they defended in the first two quarters, with the way Indiana adjusted in the second half to reduce their turnovers by 400% or whatever it was. Like, I think that should be the talking point, and then it shouldn't be about why this team threw the game or why this team it was a fluke or whatever. It should be more about what is translatable to game 2.
What would you say, like, from Indiana, like, offensive approach is translatable going into game 2?
Well, I think one of my big takeaways watching it back was we've talked about this all year long. Indiana's a team that typically wants to get into multiple actions, like back to back to back to back, to keep a defense moving and keep a defense in rotation. The problem is OKC thrives when they're rotating and when you're getting into multiple actions. So anytime Indiana sets up an action, there's like an instant risk of, okay, now OKC has one more chance at forcing a turnover. And I think that's what we saw in the first half. It was Indiana would go to all of these different actions, and by action 3 or 4, OKC finds a way to jump a lane or something or get a hand on the ball. Also, we've talked about Indiana's one of those offenses, like Boston does this a lot, where we're going to pass up good shots for great ones. We're going to like this is a good shot, but if I keep hunting and get deep into that clock, I can probably get something better. Against OKC, there's going to be nothing better. So my big takeaway right at the beginning of the third quarter was Indiana stopped going to like 4 or 5 different actions in the same possession. It was one action. It was deliberate. It was, this is our one action for the possession, and we're just going to take the first available shot. We're not going to hunt for a layup or a wide open corner 3. It's like, when I make this pass, if you have an opportunity to shoot the ball, we're taking that shot. So I think one play that really stood out from the third quarter was Chet switches onto Halliburton out of pick and roll. And instead of like, in the first half, they probably would have saw Case and Wallace on Miles Turner and been like, okay, let's exploit that mismatch. Instead, they swing the ball to Nesmith in the weak side corner, and Nesmith has like a semi-contested 3, but he just pulls the trigger. Just immediately fires a 3 and makes it. There was a similar play with in the fourth quarter where Toppin slipped a screen, probably could have gotten the ball in the short roll, but you had J-Dub coming over from the weak side, and then it's like, who knows what's going to happen. And instead of forcing the ball to Toppin in the short roll, Halliburton just dumps it off to Turner in the corner. Again, semi-contested 3, but Turner's got a quick trigger, and he can hit that shot. They end up shooting 46% from 3 in the game overall. And maybe that's the question mark of like, okay, can you shoot 46% again on these quick trigger 3s? That's the question mark of what's translatable. But in terms of, we're going to go to 1 or 2 actions, we're going to take the first available shot. I don't really know what OKC, like what can OKC do to like counter that besides just like hope they don't make the shot they're going to take right away.
Yeah. And like looking at that possession that you're talking about specifically with Halliburton and the Nesmith 3, Nesmith catches the ball with 17 on the clock and like just fires it. Now like,
and he probably has an entry to Turner, like if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Turner has the seal, but it's like that's when you get risky and they can start forcing turnovers. In the first half, he probably would have thrown that pass.
Or even like technically, maybe he could try to attack the closeout and maybe get baseline. But again, like then OKC's going to rotate. Now you're trying to make a swing pass, and oh no, Case and Wallace is now getting a deflection. Now Chet's getting a lob dunk the other way.
Exactly.
That's a good call out. And then it sucks too, like from the standpoint of like OKC, where it's not like Indiana is slowing down necessarily. They're just speeding up their offensive scoring process, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But the pace that they play with is still fast. So instead of it, like you said, being, okay, cool, we're going to go pistol action into a flare screen, into a double drag, and we're going to get the shallow cut to, okay, now we have Turner on a post seal. Cool. Siakam throw the entry pass. Instead of it being all like 7 different actions in the span of 10 seconds, they're still running their stuff fast. It's now, okay, cool, let's get this drag ball screen right quick. Let's see if we can get the low man to sink over and, okay, cool, swing, and just shoot that shot.
Right, and it's like, I love how they can go, they'll do like one action. They won't ever show the same action twice in a row. It was always like, if you watch back the fourth quarter, every possession is just like one deliberate action, and then they get an advantage. So in the fourth quarter, there was a 3-play stretch where first it was an empty side pick and roll for Mathurin. That was set all the way at half court because OKC full court pressed.
Yeah.
So he just turns the corner and there's no one baseline and he just gets to the rim, gets a layup. Next time down, they go like Siakam's at the elbow on the right elbow. He sets a cross screen for whoever was in the corner to clear out. Then he runs off a flare screen from Turner. And then that clears the baseline for him to attack on a drive. He has like this awkward floater miss. Then Mathurin grabs an offensive rebound and misses a wide open layup. And they don't score in that possession, but they end up with 2 or 3 layup attempts off of offensive rebounds. And then the third play after that is Nembhard double drag. OKC defends it to perfection. And then Nembhard just bodies Caruso in isolation and gets an M1.
I
So
think
it's
I'm
like
watching that play right now.
Yeah, he just bullies him. And it's like 3 plays in a row. You go empty side pick and roll, flare screen, double drag. 3 completely different actions. And all 3 possessions end in a shot at the rim. And it's like...
Even the next possession right after that, like almost like pistol action with Nembhard and Obi Toppin. Deep paint touch. There's 3 players surrounding.
And then the kick out. Yep, the little give and go right in early offense. Yeah. And it's like every play was something a little bit different with the goal of just getting that initial guard a downhill advantage. And Indiana's offense in the second half was so simple. There's something to be said about just simplifying your offense. Take what the defense is giving you. That's what they did in the second half. And they had an 83. They had an 83 offensive rating in the first half, and they had a 138 offensive rating in the second half.
And again, like really quick, just to go back to the point of like them simplifying their actions but still playing fast. They're down 11, just a little bit past the 8-minute mark, so like 7:50.
Yeah.
They go, I think, early offense drag screen. Hand off it to like just a side pick and roll, and iHeart just barely starts to tag Obi Toppin on the roll. Quick swing to the corner, and Miles Turner just jacks the shot.
And that's the one I was talking about, where Turner has the quick trigger. And if you actually go like back to the frame, like right when the screen happens, the pass to Toppin is there. If they wanted to force it is there. But I like the decision to just take the second best pass. And a lot of people look at it and be like, well, he's not making the highest leverage pass on the court. But it's not about whether or not Halliburton can make that pass. It's about once that pass is made, how is Toppin going to respond to OKC rotate? Like, how is he going to respond to a J-Dub tag and then whoever's on the wing dropping to the corner? Like, it is tough to make decisions off the catch against this OKC defense.
Yeah.
So just take what they're giving you, don't force anything. And I loved Indiana just really simplifying their offense in that second half. It was really cool to see.
They even like side out of bounds. They go this nasty flare screen action for a Miles Turner. Down 7 hits the 3.
The sidestep, yeah, that was crazy.
I think another takeaway, and I love the Pacers roster construction, so like part of me doesn't want to see this happen. But like, bro, I'm just so convinced that Andrew Nembhard, like if he ever left to go be like the one somewhere, like the point guard somewhere else, he would be so daggone good.
That combo
on Shai.
What was that? That was literally James Harden.
Yeah, he turned into like I thought he always had been like a pretty good defensive player, but he basically turned into like an all defensive caliber guard post ankle injury, I think it was, or whatever the minutes restriction he was on mid-season. Gets released off of that, and he ramps up, and Carlisle, I guess, ramps up the ball pressure by 1 billion with him and Neesmith. Kind of just lets him loose. I mean, Neesmith also dealing with the ankle. He was the one that for sure was dealing with the ankle injury. And then like Nembhard just turns into this ridiculous shot maker in the playoffs. With the second side creation, also similarly does really turn the ball over. And the way he can just create space in the half court to like get the separation for his pull up in the mid yard from 3 yard, be able to get downhill and cause the defense to collapse. And the fun thing is they can just basically run this roster back next year if they wanted to.
And I do there's so much like subtle lineup flexibility with this team too. Like in the first quarter when Thomas Bryant checked in, OKC went to a zone, and I'll say my biggest flaw, I think, as an analyst is I can never tell what type of zone is actually being played. Like, because they all look so weird and disguised. Like, I don't know if it's a 2-1-2, a 2-3, a 3-2. I'm so bad at recognizing that. That's the one thing I just can never. So I don't know what kind of zone OKC went to at the end of the first quarter, but it was the weirdest looking thing where, like, Caruso was almost playing If you're looking for it, it's like in the last 2 minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes left in the first quarter. One of the plays ended with an Obi top and turnover. I want to say, I don't know, but Caruso was in like this weird like free safety at the elbow roll where he would just pick up whenever the ball got to the middle, he would pick it up. And there was one play, the second play of the zone. They try to start with Siakam on the left block. And because of the way they've spaced the floor, iHeart, who's under the basket, has to pick up Siakam on the left block. And it's like they're on a string. The moment iHeart rotates to the left block, Caruso immediately shoots down to the middle. And then he picks up I do remember Siakam drew a foul on this play. Because Caruso then rotates and iHeart grabs Siakam from behind on a drive. But it's like, their rotations are literally perfect on defense in this zone. And Indiana's like, okay, we'll just take Thomas Bryant out of the game and have Obi Toppin and Siakam play our 4 and 5. And then Toppin immediately gets the top of the key 3 the next play against the zone. And it's like just having those options to get to those, like all types of different lineups, just moves mountains for this Indiana team.
What the hell?
Are you looking at the zone?
Yeah, I'm seeing the I saw the OB3.
Yeah, so
I'm trying to
right
go
before
back.
that, the 2 plays before that, I have no idea what zone they're running. And
Synergy
like
also doesn't know either because Synergy's classifying these as man possessions.
that's how weird the zone was. They're counting it as a man possession, but it is clearly a zone of some sort. I've never seen it before. OKC's inventing defensive schemes before our very eyes, man. Like, I think it's a 3-2. But it's, like, not normal.
That's also what I want to say. Is it's a 3-2? But like, if it's a 3-2,
You see what
like,
Caruso's doing, though? Like, what is his role? It's like...
oh wait, I'm allowed. I can just like share my Synergy screen, right?
You can share, you can share your screen.
Hold on here.
And I have no idea, like, how to even class. In my video, I just said, and then OKC went to a zone. Because it's like, I don't know what kind of zone this is.
Okay. So I'm gonna start it. Okay, so if it's a 3-2, this is where I'm confused. First off, like they just have 5 players severely like in the gaps and like clogging driving lanes, and that's also partially Thomas Bryant. I think 3-2 because Shai kind of stays up. He's still here. Let's say you could argue like starts 2-3. You could argue that.
Yeah, and they do this thing where they'll just fall back into different coverages throughout the possession.
Yeah. Like, right here is absolutely a 3-2. Like before Ben.
Oh yeah.
Before Ben Mather drives the ball, this is for sure a 3-2. Because if this is a 2-3, then he would have bumped. They would have all bumped over. Essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even then, like I still think calling it 3-2 be weird because I feel like Isaiah Joe should be further over.
Go to let me find. I'm trying to find a very specific possession that I was referring to.
Caruso's nuts, by the way.
Where Caruso picks up somebody in the middle of the floor on a drive. Okay, I think I got it. Well, actually, there's a bunch. There's so many different possessions. Go to 202. Go to 202 in the first quarter. That was the first possession of the zone that I noticed.
202.
And this is where I was like, I don't really know what kind of zone this is. It ends with a Nemhard missed corner 3.
Okay.
With like 150 left, probably.
Yeah.
The possession starts at like 205 or something like that. And I don't know how much of it Synergy will show you compared to what I clipped from the game. Oh, there we go. That's perfect. Watch Caruso. What is his role? Like, it's like a 2-1-2 almost. But it isn't. It would a 2-2-1? It's like
more 2-2-1, yeah. Because like Shai is like kind of covering this area, and iHeart's got the baseline.
Yeah, then Caruso just immediately picks up a drive.
And then it's technically like 2-1-2, I guess. And anything middle, Caruso got it.
Yeah, and then iHeart ends up closing out on Nemhard for a corner 3. They just hand off all of the matchups between the wings, switch everything.
Yeah.
Hold up, I can actually pull up the next possession I was talking about. Let me pull up mine. This is what I was referring to with the Siakam play. So check this out. They're back in this. It's got to be a 3. This is easily a 3-2, right? Like, I'm not sure. This is pretty obviously a 3-2 here.
Play it.
Like, this looks like a 3-2 to me.
That's a 3-2.
Yeah,
that's a 3-2. Yes.
Look at how Indiana spaces the floor here. Look at where Siakam is. They're gonna try to get the ball to Siakam so that iHeart has to leave the paint. And then watch Caruso. When iHeart goes to Siakam, Caruso just fills out the middle. Now it's a 2-3.
Why don't we go back one more time?
Like, it's so seamless. It's so seamless. So they're in a 3-2. Indiana overloads this side, puts Siakam on the block. iHeart picks up Siakam, and now it's a 2-3.
That's just them. Yeah, that's just them switching. It's like ball gets to the opposite wing, and like on the same side as iHeart, where it's gonna drop.
It's insane, and the play ends up with drawing a foul. But like, bro, the rotation it's literally flawless.
Yeah,
it's literally flawless, and it's just crazy that OKC can do so many different things defensively, have so much versatility, have the personnel to do what they do. And for Indiana to still walk them down like they did in that second half and have a 138 offensive rating in the half, win the possession game. They won the possession game in the second half, shot 50% from 3. It's insane. It's insane. And the only question is, like, how much of that can you replicate and how much of that is reliant on the fact that these quick trigger threes were not missing at all?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what Indiana does then, like if like they aren't falling.
Right. Because they still weren't, like, even when they got hot on offense in the second half, it's not like they were like getting breakdowns, getting these crazy advantages and forcing OKC to make tough decisions. It was more so like, if you're gonna roam as the tagger, we're just gonna like ignore the short roll pass and just get it to the corner early, and it'll be a semi-contested 3, and then we're gonna make 50% of them. Like, it felt like a lot of that.
Yeah.
But it also felt like there's something to be said about just simplifying your offense, taking what the defense is going to give you, and then getting a shot up every possession, not turning it over. Because, like, we've seen OKC, their superpower as a defense from start to finish this season has been their ability to force turnovers. We haven't really seen a team like Indiana where it's like, what does OKC's defense look like if they're not going to force any turnovers? And then, more importantly, what does their offense look like if they're not getting points off of turnovers? Because the offense down the stretch was bad. Very bad.
Yeah, it was 5 turnovers for Indiana in the second half?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
and even in the first half, I think out of those 19 turnovers, OKC only had like 9 points off of turnovers. So credit to Indiana for not, like, because here's the way I look at it. OKC failed to do their job, because if you force 19 turnovers in the first half and the other team has an 83 offensive rating, there's no reason to go into the half up 12. You should have ran away with the game. There should have never been that door should have never been open.
Yeah, I forget who it was that was talking about the game. That was talking about game 1. It might have been oh man, I feel like a douchebag for just forgetting his name. Zach Lowe. There we go. I think it was Zach Lowe talking about how, like, this was just
Zach Lowe.
I don't know how I forgot Zach Lowe. Like, I almost said Tim Legler for him, and I was like, wait, no, it's not. It wasn't Legs. No, Zach Lowe was basically talking about, like, this is the weirdest game, one of the weirdest games I've ever watched, because, yeah, like you said, like, how it was basically a 12 to 13 point game the entire game, and then it's like, oh yeah, okay, we've seen this movie before.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, that was a very weird game, but also a ridiculously fun game.
There's sometimes in pro sports, I think one thing that also gets overblown is like the it factor. You hear it a lot with quarterbacks in the NFL, like, man, this guy just does have the clutch gene or the it factor or whatever. Tyrese Halliburton has the it factor. I hate saying it, like talking about players having an it factor.
At a certain point, it's not a coincidence. Like, I get it's still a small sample size, but when it happens every single time,
every single series this year, he's hit a game winner or a big time game tying shot. Yeah. It's
like divine intervention. Like, bro, if you flip a coin 20 times and it's heads all 20 times, at a certain point, it's not a coincidence. There's divine intervention.
Yeah.
It's like this Halliburton stuff clearly just isn't a fluke at this point. It's just like, when he dribbled down the court, it felt like we all knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like it was like there almost wasn't even a doubt in my mind that, like, oh, down 1, this is how it happens. They're gonna win this game.
Like, I think he's 13 for 15 on
Yes.
game tying or game winning, not even game tying, like shots to take the lead or tie
In the final 2 minutes, yeah.
in the
And
final
I
two
think he
minutes.
has an 101 effective field goal percentage
What
on those
the,
shots this season.
like what the hell?
Yeah. No, actually, there's something else I want to talk about though. You talked about Nemhard's defense. You mentioned like how he just became an all-league defender. And one play immediately jumped out to me from the first quarter where he does his signature pull the chair move and Shea like bends the reality of space to not lose his balance and makes a one-legged floater. And it was like, "Oh, so we've got like it's so funny. Nemhard in this series has run into like the two final bosses of different qualities. So Nemhard has like two signature moves in my opinion. One is pull the chair. You can't pull the chair on Shea because he never loses balance. That is the balance final boss, the coordination final boss. So every time he tried to pull the chair, Shea just like regathered himself and had an open shot. Two, Nemhard loves to drop the shoulder, and there were like 4 different plays where he tried to drop the shoulder on Dort, and Dort was a literal brick wall. Just like Nemhard had to get whiplash on these plays.
I just saw the I remember watching this live. I just saw the Shea
It's insane.
possession because
It's insane.
the pull the chair move is so, I think we've talked about it, it's so like unique. It's like you don't normally see it on drives. Like
Right.
even though I know it's Neymar, I even still thought like, wait, is he still pulling the chair like on a post up with Shea posting him up? But no, like it was like just on
Yeah.
a middle of the floor isolation. And Shea, yeah, I don't know how Shea just keeps
Because
his
he's getting ready for Shea's shoulder bump. Shea drops the shoulder, there's no one there, and he somehow regathers his balance and gets a one-legged floater. Like Shea is insane, and that's kind of where I wanted to take the conversation because it felt like Indiana let Shea play in space for a lot of this game. Like out of the flat ball screen stuff, especially like early flat ball screens to counter the ball pressure. Indiana just kind of had to concede a lot of switches, and then you end up with Toppin and Shea on an island on an empty side. And Shea continuously got to his spots in the mid range. And I guess where I'm going with this is if you just look at the box score and see that he shot 14 of 30, you're like, okay, we're living with that for sure. We limited J-Dub in chat, which is obviously a big deal. But the way I look at it is like, Shea could have very easily gone for 50 in this game with the types of looks he was able to get to. And that scares me because I think down the stretch, they did an incredible job of like selling out to Shea, doing the early load up, peel switching and all that good stuff that we've seen like Denver do, for example. But through the first 3 quarters, and the first quarter, I think he had 11 shot attempts in the first quarter. And only one of them.
some good looks.
Right. One of them was a block from Neesmith. That was the only one where I was like, okay, that was a really tough shot. Like
Yeah.
he could have gone 10 of 11 and I wouldn't have been shocked. That's what scares me for Indiana moving forward because OKC, if J-Dub or Chet shows up and plays like at even a fraction of an all-star level on offense, and these are the types of looks you're letting Shea get. And I shouldn't even say letting Shea get because it's still Shea creating a ton of separation in tough situations. Like even that last shot, for him to create that much separation on that last shot that he missed, he basically ended up with a warm-up jumper. It just left a little long. Yeah, that's what worries me. I don't think you can keep guarding Shea like they were in those first 3 quarters.
I think the biggest thing is there were so many times where Shea would, split the ball screens or like there's one possession late in the first half where they're trying to put 2 on the ball with Obi and Aaron Neesmith kind of just like spins back to his left. And Indiana, I don't think did a really good job. Like with guys like Shea, you have to just fully meet them outside the lane line. Like they are letting Shea get deep paint touches. Like the amount of times in the first quarter, especially where he's just easily splitting a Miles Turner, like high drop or even like trying to like hedge necessarily, and getting all the way to the rim. Nice little jelly layup or whatever, because there's just nobody there to meet him outside. And Shea's an elite shot maker, so like if you let him get a downhill lane, regardless, it's gonna be tough. But I'm not giving him blow by attempts at the rim.
Right.
Like, I think that's what you're saying. It's like, cool. He still wound up having an efficient game against against Denver, but it was Shea seeing 5 bodies, and we're not giving him practically 14 points off of easy layups. So I
Right,
think
and he had to get most of his offense in that series in early offense before the defense could set.
yeah. Yeah, or if it was in the half court, cool. It's him shooting contested middies while seeing a crowd of 5 defenders.
Right.
Like even on this possession, like Siakam is chasing. He's the low man. Siakam is chasing. I think it's Casey Wallace out to the corner, and then by the time he realizes, oh shoot, it's Shai driving off a ball screen and we got beat, and he tries to get back. He is just now getting 1 foot inside the circle. Or inside the restricted area, excuse me, and Shai's like already like full head of steam going to the rim. That's either a foul or like you're just conceding 2 points.
Right.
So I'm living with Kaysen shooting that for right now.
Yeah.
Like we talked about that pre-series, like
Make
these
him
other
prove it.
guys gotta prove it. And
Yeah.
to your point,
And Dort did. Shout out Dort.
shout
He was
out
hooping.
Dort.
He was hooping.
But these other guys got to consistently prove it because to your point, Shai just missed some clean looks, honestly.
Right.
And Shai goes for 50, then it's a different series or a different game,
And I
excuse
think
me.
where my head's at is like I think both teams had like deeply flawed approaches in some sense. Like I don't like the way Indiana guarded Shai in the first 3 quarters. I didn't like Indiana's offensive process in the first 2 quarters. That's like what led to a lot of turnovers. They felt really rushed. But also like OKC's offense in general was very stagnant. They didn't really do anything to unlock J-Dub or Chet as off the catch weapons. It was very much just stand still. You got to create. And I wasn't a fan of that. I don't know. I guess where I'm going with this is a lot of people will see there's 2 sides to this. A lot of people will see that the Pacers won the game and be like, well, obviously the Pacers were the better team in this game. But you can be the worst team in a game and still win. But on the flip side of that, you could also, a lot of people will look at OKC and say, oh, well, you led for 47 minutes and 30 seconds. You were the better team in this game. But to me, it was very much a tale of 2 games. Like, OKC was the considerably better team in the first half, but they weren't good enough to put the game out of reach. They shot like 36% from 2 in the first half or something like that. That's why you were only up by 12.
Yeah.
If you just shoot like 50% from 2, you're up by 20. Now Indiana is going up against the best team in the league trying to claw back from 20. That's a huge difference from being down 12 or being down 9 going into the 4th. But same line of thinking. Second half, Indiana was the considerably better team. Just the considerably better team across the board. It wasn't just that isolated stretch of we're down 8 with 3 minutes left and now we're going to have this voodoo comeback. Like, no, they were the better team. Coming out of the half, they were just the better basketball team. And I don't know where my head's at now going into game 2. Like, I don't know where the momentum is because the last versions of these teams we saw, Indiana had figured out more.
Yeah.
But there's still so much OKC can do, and we still don't know how much of that Indiana looking better was reliant on we're just not going to miss threes.
Right. I'm trying to see, man. I'm excited for game 2.
I'm so
I
excited.
am excited.
Yeah.
Game 2 is going to be
It's
a
crazy.
bop.
Like, I don't even know where my head's at in the series right now. I couldn't even tell you.
What the hell is where your head should be at right now?
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, the Pacers just like break everyone's brain. Like I'm just not even an analyst anymore. I'm just about to just start repping Pacers jerseys in every video and every episode. It's like, it's crazy. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. You can plug the playback. Game 2.
Plug the playback. Yes, we will be live. You didn't pop into game 1. What happened?
We were on our way back from a road trip,
Okay.
basketball road trip.
We were in there
watching
for
the
game
on the
1.
bus.
We witnessed the Halliburton game winner live on playback.tv/hoopvenue. I'll be live streaming all of the games. Sean will probably pop in there a couple times. I actually think Indiana winning game 1 was the best outcome for making this series box office. And I'm glad it happened from like an entertainment perspective because now there's more pressure on OKC. Like, you just lost home court advantage in game 1. And I remember vividly you and I having this conversation where I was like, there's a very realistic scenario somewhere in a parallel universe where Indiana takes game 1, like punches OKC in the mouth, which that's not exactly what happened, but Indiana takes game 1. OKC takes game 2. Then Indiana wins both of their games on their home court. And now it's 3-1 going back to OKC. Like, that is still very much in play. But now there's serious pressure on OKC because Indiana in the Halliburton era, I want to say they're 11-2 at home in the playoffs. I think their 2 losses are to Cleveland and New York this year. Game 3 Cleveland, they lost. And game 3 New York. Yeah, game 3 New York, they lost.
They were up 2-0 on New York? Yeah, they were up 2-0.
Yeah.
Okay.
Game 3. So this team doesn't lose at home, really. And if you go down 0-2, 2 more games in Indiana back to back, that's scary. That is a scary situation to be in. So there's a lot of pressure on OKC to win.
Predicting a sweep? Is that what we just heard? Live on the pod?
That's what I'm doing. No, I'm still rolling with my OKC pick for now. I think they showed me enough defensively, and I think the types of looks Shai was getting, if they just get a little bit more creative and find ways to incorporate J-Dub and Chet without just being reliant on standstill creation, like Chet especially. Chet was 2 for 9, 2 points, just like a complete negative offensive player in this game.
Yeah.
I think if you find ways to incorporate both those guys and get back to your defensive roots, I actually think their defense in the second half was fine. Indiana just outperformed them. I think you don't overreact. You don't make any rash lineup choices. You don't need to go back to double big. Stick with what worked in the first half. Figure out your offense. That's what they need to figure out first. I think the defense will kind of fall into place. Figure out what you're going to do offensively besides Shai, take us home, because they could not score in the half court for the last 5 minutes of the game. The only bucket I can even remember down the stretch was after Lou Dort had the most insane vertical contest block I've ever seen from a guard, and then Shai had that super tough layup in transition to put him up 5. Besides that, every half court play, they just couldn't score.
OKC's half court offense in like late game scenarios has pretty consistently been Shai, take us home.
Yeah, it has. And then once there was a play where Indiana actually just guarded Shai with 5 defenders, and J-Dub had a wide open 3 and he missed. And it's like, it really is as simple, like, for all the X's and O's, it's really as simple as, J-Dub, we need you to show up.
Yeah.
Like, you got to make that shot, and the game's over. We win. If one of those
Chet,
shots
there'll
goes
be a
down, we
net
win.
negative.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some other interesting things like AJ Mitchell minutes to start the second quarter. Wasn't expecting that.
I was not expecting that.
That was random.
Cameron Williams played in this game too, I think.
Who did?
Cameron Williams. Am I making that up?
Yeah, Kenrich had like a 40-second stint playing the 5.
Yeah.
and that was it. But it was a cool little stint. It was actually their counter to Indiana's when Indiana went small to counter the zone. OKC was like, okay, we'll do you one better. Kenrich at the 5. Now what? For like 40 seconds to end the first quarter. That was it. Yeah, but super interesting game 1. I can't wait for game 2. You got any other like big takeaways or predictions moving forward?
Do we need to have a ratings conversation? I feel like everybody else is doing that. Do we need to do it? Nope. Oh, okay. I didn't think so.
I actually had a joke when we were on the playback. It was like one of the crazy late game situations, and I was like, man, I really want to enjoy the basketball, but these markets just are not big enough. I can't get into the game. Like, I just can't get into like. It's not LA and New York, man. It just isn't.
That's funny.
No. The great basketball. Like I said, I think this is going to be the highest level of basketball ever played. Game 1, I would say delivered.
Yeah.
I'd say game 1 delivered, in my opinion. But I'm just one guy. I love both these teams, so.
How dare you?
What'd you say?
How dare you like basketball?
True. How dare I like watching Shai play basketball?
How dare you call the Thunder defense historic?
Clearly they're not. Indiana just tore. No. We don't even need to get into this. This is how you know it's time to end the episode, man. We're talking some BS. Really appreciate you guys listening. Make sure to leave us some knowledge down in the comments about what you guys think happened in this game and what's going to happen. What are you laughing at?
You said, please make sure to leave us some knowledge. No, it's late, but oh my God.
Drop it, dude. It's bad. It's bedtime, bro. Leave us some knowledge down in the comments.
Go to sleep.
Leave us some knowledge in the comments. Give us some little tidbits of knowledge in the comments about what you thought about game 1 and what you think is going to happen moving forward in this series. Maybe some schematic or lineup adjustments you're expecting to see, or maybe like some X factors you're expecting to see. Make sure to follow us on social media. Sean's on Twitter at Sean_DAVI. He's on Instagram at Sean_Davis23. He's on YouTube at the Sports Headline Show and the Los Angeles Lakers Network. My personal accounts are all on Tyler Britton _ Hoop Venue on all platforms for my basketball content. Like he said, playback.tv/hoop venue to get the live streams. Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Click all those links in the description. 5-star rating if you're on Spotify. We are never doing an episode this late again.
Over here.
We will catch you guys next time after game 2 with episode number 51.